All right. Hey, Paul, thank you for joining me on the show. Just for people who are watching this, I worked for Paul about 6 or 7 years ago. We had, this is way back in the day when there was ServiceNow Express around, and Paul led a team of people around the globe, really, who were helping people who had ServiceNow Express. And so we would do consulting work with them and development work with them and all that. So that's Paul and my background. So it's really good fun to have you here. Paul, so you are, your role at ServiceNow, Senior Director of Technical Accelerators at Scale. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to ServiceNow, how you got into that role, and then we'll talk a bit more, I guess, around those accelerators and how they work for ServiceNow.
Sure. So firstly, nice to see you again, Tim. It has been a while. Although we've not forgotten about you. And you'll know why later. You're part of the TAS. We call the team TAS, Technical Accelerators at Scale. You're part of the TAS history, actually. So we'll explain how that comes in later. The bookends to my personal story. I was born in Amsterdam, so I am Dutch, but I am now a US citizen living in San Diego. So that's the bookends. In between, obviously spent time in England, which is where I picked up the silly accent. Spent 8 years in Italy as well. Started off in the UK. I did a degree in computer science, University of London. Started off doing the compiler development in a defense environment, so really techie, really deep. Did some consulting, telco, banking, finance. I said I worked in Italy for 8 years, then went into consumer products, printers and scanners, and then PCs with HP for a long time, so consumer and commercial products. And then about 10 years ago, I was working on a business that was an internal customer of HP's alternative to ServiceNow. And I saw ServiceNow one day and I went, okay, that's over. And fortunately, I had a friend that worked here. Shout out to Becky Johnson. And she pulled me over, and the rest is history, as they say. So it's been a great 10 years. Been an amazing ride to see the growth in this company. It was 2,000 employees when I joined. I think we're 26,000 or something right now. Wow. We were a one BU business, right? We had basically we were always the platform, but really it was ITSM only. And now it's, and I often feel like I know less about ServiceNow today than I did 10 years ago. After working hard at it for 10 years, it's just expanded, so hugely. And I think that's probably another thing that you and I have in common, actually. I think you're trying to explain things to people with all the stuff coming out. And that's actually our mission as well, is really just to help people absorb and adopt and get the most value out of ServiceNow that they possibly can. So, and they need a helping hand, right? They need somebody to explain some of the stuff. So that's core to our DNA.
And that's what the accelerators, if I'm getting it right, are really about. It's about helping people with ServiceNow, like get a leg up, get started in an area, get some guidance in an area.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me telling you the full origin story, so I can actually you'll work out where you weave into this story. But even Mo, and you had Mo on last week, he was asking me for the origin story as well. How did this all come about? And it's a long story, but it's worth it because it helps frame up how we got to where we are. So, as you said, we were working with Express customers, right? And they asked, helping them, coaching them. So, we were working with big customers as well, but also the smaller commercial customers that were typically buying Express. Worked out how to coach them a little bit more. And again, they're different, right? They don't have the army of internal people. They don't have the big partners helping them. So working out how to really coach people and help people through it. We're working with those Express customers, and then the business unit ran ITSM, which was the owner of Express, asked us to help with the migration of Express customers from Express to Enterprise, if you recall. And before we were doing it, they were just basically flipping some switches and handing them the keys. And I was liken it to you're driving in an automatic Fiat 500 and they give you the keys to a Ferrari and they leave the parking lot and crash straight out of the gate. So they asked us to weave a bit of a service around it so that customers knew how the migration was going to go, how to test it before we flip the switch over to enterprise. And we started doing that. First few went very well. We were talking about Damien earlier. Damien got the process normalized, let's say. We did the first 3 or 4, went really well compared to some of them that had been done before us. And then the BU, the head of product management for the BU, and I sat down one day and he says, yeah, we're actually going to have you migrate all of them. I went, wait, you told us you wanted to do like 10 to 15 a quarter, and now you want to do over 700? And he said, yeah, and I have to get it done in under a year. I was like, oh. So how are we going to do these 700 migrations in under a year? And most of them were taking 2 months, 2+ months to get these migrations done. And part of it involved creating the future state instance. And one day you came to us, and we would get on the first call, kickoff call with the customer, explain the theory of operations and all these things of how it's going to happen. And that would generate fear, right? They would say, oh, I need to see this, and I need to have like 4 weeks to test it. And 99.9% of the time it was completely fine, but we already built this fear up. And one day, Tim, you said, why don't we just, instead of explaining theory of operations, why don't we just show them the future state of their express instance, but now on enterprise? And that literally cut out 90% of the fear and 80 or 90% of the time. So this concept of don't explain stuff to people too much, just show them what their future looks like. It reduces all the fear. It reduces all the irrelevant questions they might have, because instantly they see it, and it just increases confidence and accelerates the whole motion. So we started doing those, and we had 700 plus that we needed to do. After the first 250 or so, which we actually, we did a lot of refinement of the process to get it really well-oiled. I went to our leader at the time, that the SVP in charge of our organization, and said, I'm going to be done with this. I had a schedule. Well, what do you want me to go do next? I mean, so I can start thinking about next. The guys have got this. And he says, so this is like an upgrade, right? What you're doing. And I said, yeah, behind the scenes, a lot of the mechanics are very similar to an upgrade. He says, well, the CEO and chief product officer keep going on about how customers are so many releases behind, and we're innovating so much and generating so much innovation, but it's always available only in the latest releases, that customers can't adopt the innovation because they're 3 releases, 4 releases behind. Yeah. So can you do something with upgrades? And I said, sure, but we're not going to create an upgrade service, because I need, that's partner business, and customers should do that themselves, or expert services. But I'll come up with something. And so I came up with some recommendations on how things could be set up better. But he turned around and said, okay, but could you provide a service like that you could deliver really efficiently? Start with the commercial customers, the smaller ones that don't have all the complications of the giant customers, and something where you can really coach them. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I can do something like that. And what we did, and this is the formula we now have for all our accelerators, is what are the top barriers to adopting this thing? Yeah. Right. So in the case of upgrades, we had tons of information on why customers weren't upgrading quickly. I don't have a spare instance. Okay, well, what if we gave you a spare instance for a month so you can kick the tires? I don't know how to process skip logs. Okay, how about we coach you on how to process skip logs? How should I be doing the sequence of upgrading? Okay, we can coach you on that. How do I read the release notes? Yeah, that's really hard. Let me give you a tool to help you read the release notes better. So item after item, we could come up with something where if you were sitting with a friend at a bar, right, and that friend was an expert at doing upgrades, they say, okay, let me show you this and explain it to you. Because everything we do, there are thousands of documents on docs, community, the web, all these other places. People need a little bit of a guiding hand to help them cut through the clutter, plus some tools and tips and tricks, like having a temporary instance. So that was Jumpstart Your Upgrade was born, and it used that same technique of don't go blah blah blah, lots of theory of operations. Within 10 minutes or so of the call of the Jumpstart Your Upgrade, let's show them their instance on the latest release, right? So right now we'd be showing them Xanadu. And they may be thinking, well, I'm not going to upgrade to Xanadu. I'm going to wait till Yokohama. And when they see it, it's like, oh, well, it's ready to go, or vice versa, right? The latest release might be out and they were still going to the previous one. It's like, this looks good enough. Let's do a quick smoke test and then we can start moving it in. So that theory of looking at the top customer problems, helping them through the clutter, using the temporary instance to show them what their instance looks like on the latest release, or some new product, virtual agent, AI search, an improved CMDB, whatever it is, we can show them how their world would look like. So end result first. So psychologically, we literally see customers, they'll be in, okay, this is yet another meeting, and they're like this, and then when we pop up the temporary instance, they'll, oh wait, okay, this got really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's basically how this came about. We started off with Jumpstart Your Upgrade, did a few thousand of those. Then we're asked to do similar. The fleet, the customers have poor CMDB scores.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they said, "Hey, we know how to help customers improve." This is the business unit came and said, "We know how to help them improve, and we've got some tools, but we can't address the customers at scale." Right, we've got potentially 3,000 customers we'd love to talk to. Can you create a service? And I said, if you've got the intellectual property, we've got the freight train that can move at scale, and you will put your thing on. And so we created a tune up your CMDB. Yeah. Next thing, we had a tune up security. Hey, in people's instance security could be tightened up. We don't have enough field security officers. Can you create a service that, a lightweight thing that we could even fund you to go do this for free for customers? So before you knew it, we had a portfolio of 4 or 5 of those. And I'll tell you the rest of the story in a minute. Yeah. I'll take a breather there and see if you have any questions about that. But that's how it came about. And you can see how just show it to them. And the psychology, you're a great listener, the psychology of, okay, how do I make this consumable for people? How to make it simple for people to wrap their heads around? It's very central to what we're doing at scale now. The idea there that you've got where you can say, okay, we're going to give you a temporary instance. I'm assuming here, but we'll take a clone of your production environment or whatever environment you're happy with, but here's something, we're going to upgrade it, or we'll do the accelerate on it and then look at it and play with it. Yeah, I can imagine that for people who are like, oh, okay, I get it now. I can actually see and play with this thing. Yes, I want it. That's made the decision. The stakeholders had a look at it. He loves it. Signed off. Let's go. Instead of, like you say, having to convince people through paper and abstract ideas, just here it is. This is what it was. Absolutely. And it means different things to different people, right? Some people are going to be the people doing the implementation themselves. So for them, just, okay, help me with the tactical steps. Sometimes, I still remember, even with Jumpstart Your Upgrade, we call him Aspen Guy. This is what we were doing the first pilots. And he says, I've been doing upgrades since Aspen. And I was like, oh, he's going to be teaching us. It's like, you know what? We had a couple of minor things for him, but the rest was just confirming that he was doing things right. Yeah. So that gave him that confidence to move more quickly. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we have a Jumpstart Your Virtual Agent, and we were actually interviewing him for a job, but he had some accelerators. So I said, well, what did you get out of it? And he said, well, Jumpstart Your Virtual Agent was a great example. I didn't know where to start before the session. Yeah. By the time the session ended, I knew exactly the statement of work that I needed to write for my partner. Yeah. Right. So a totally different outcome, same type of accelerator, but a totally different outcome. Some people it gives them the tactical steps, implementation wise. Sometimes it's, okay, now I know big picture wise what I want to get out of this. Yeah.
We were saying earlier that ServiceNow is it's so broad. Like, when we 7 years ago, like you said, there was one BU, there was ITSM, and that was it. Now and I say this all the time to people when they ask me, is ServiceNow difficult as a developer and administrator? I go, I don't find it to be very technically very deep. It's just so broad. It's hard keeping on top of anything. And if you're an administrator in an environment, there is the assumption, whether it's right or not that you will know everything about the platform? Because I did 6 years of supporting, I've supported scores of customers' environments, and there's always that assumption from the client that, you know how that will work, you know how to turn that on. It's like, I've never looked at that product suite before in my life.
We've got over 200 apps. I don't know the exact number. We've grown since we had those 5 or 6 we were doing before. Typically were funded, but we couldn't sell them, right? Because we were trying to do them so cheap, and ultimately they were in $0, but we couldn't sell $0 because you still have to have an order form, because to do the instance copy stuff, we have to have consent. And it's just too hard, and no sales rep wanted to sell something for nothing. And customers didn't want to find their purchasing department to do a PO for nothing either, right? So but we started off there with the 5 or 6, but I'll tell you how Impact weaves into this in a minute. But now we've got over 50 of these accelerators. So we've got 50 jump starts and tune-ups already. So we're slowly going down the Pareto chart of the ones customers really want us to develop accelerators for.
So tell me then, Paul, about that, the accelerators and Impact, how they tie together. Is it having Impact the way that you get access to the accelerators?
Yeah, exactly. So Impact is really our brand for customer success, right? So that's the first thing. We had a whole slew of different things to help customers be successful, right? It was very hard for them to consume them, let's say a la carte. It was too difficult. So there was a definite idea of how do we dramatically simplify that, and also how do we have it scalable? We've got a lot of customers. How do we help customers be repeatable? How do we use software also to help customers rather than having to help them as humans all the way? So Impact is really 2 things, right? It's a digital experience as well as the humans of Impact, right? So there are aspects of the product that are purely software, all the value reporting, value dashboards. We have platform health tools. So some of the stuff that you may know from way back when, health assessment, health scan, that's basically moving into a self-service, so it's now available to those customers through the Impact portal, as it were, to help themselves without having to have engagement with anybody. So self-enabling that customers to be successful as part of a software product, as well as the humans of Impact. So I think Mo explained this a little bit, but obviously there's my accelerators. Any paying customer gets access to my accelerators. They get access to a customer success manager, and then depending on the tier that they buy, they can get all the way up to having support account managers, platform architects, success architects, strategists. So it's a whole portfolio of different offerings under one umbrella, and in an easy to purchase, easy to consume manner with a software front end.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I have seen I've seen 2 types of clients. I've seen some clients who have got ServiceNow, but the person who's in ownership of it just doesn't get it, isn't interested, wants to leave their job or something like that. And ServiceNow sits there unattended, and people go, it's not great, we don't use it, it's very expensive. And I look at them and go, wow, like, how are you just not getting this? And then you get those other clients who are lucky enough to have found the person in their organization who's been given the opportunity to work with ServiceNow, and they just love it, and they run with it. I imagine those ones would be leaning on you and Impact all of the time and be wringing out whatever they can, and that would be what I'd be doing if I was a client.
Yeah. And in fact, literally when I joined ServiceNow, I still remember the first customer I ever met with in real life, in person, was actually owned a major brewery here in the San Diego area, and it was like he was on drugs. Yeah, like, and what's the next thing I can replace with ServiceNow? And he was like, I'm really annoyed at, I won't mention the company, that I've just paid them a bunch of money to do something. I could have done that in ServiceNow. And like they start seeing everything through the lens of, hey, I can automate that. I can put that on the platform. Basically, the whole maintenance schedules, every bottling machine was a CI. The signage board in the shop, the t-shirts and mugs store was run on ServiceNow. He's literally running everything. And then there's people, like you said, that just see it as a help desk.
Yeah.
I think those people, all I can say is just come to knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It's really a peer run event, and when you see your peers and how they're using it, you're going, okay, I'm going to get left behind unless I get on board this train.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I do, and I'm not in the space that you're working in, and I'm not in ServiceNow sales, so I don't know what happens when you're a client and you get ServiceNow. But I do imagine that a proactive outreach to say from one of your like solution architects to say, hey, you've got this. Let me come and meet you. Tell me about your environment, and I'll just tell you what you could be doing. Here's what a roadmap could look like for you.
Yeah.
That sort of thing would help grow that adoption.
Yeah.
If people know what they can do, then they could just run with it.
Exactly. And people need to be shown, again, it's just like what I was talking from a technical perspective, but also from a value perspective. So how are other customers valuing this? How is the ROI being calculated? So there's people that are looking at the business ROI all the way down to the system administrators. I have to do an upgrade, right? Or I've been told to implement XYZ or turn on AI search or whatever it is. So there's this whole spectrum, and you need different personas to help them manage them, but also show them examples, right? So this is why Impact is really an at-scale effort. So take all those best practices, leading practices from other industries, other people, industry verticals, and bring that expertise and examples to those customers, so they can start to see what the opportunities are.
So the service is available to any ServiceNow client at some level.
Yep. Yeah.
So
there might be some regulated markets where it's not fully available, but as a whole, it's a global offering. Yeah.
Yeah. But so from your perspective, then tell me about your team. What's your team like in trying to go out and service all those people?
So the team, I have a fantastic team. I'm very lucky. We've been able to build it from the ground up in the last 3 years. We have over 100 consultants now in three major geos, and we have Americas, EMEA, and APJ. We have them located in hubs, and there's a very specific reason for that. So we have a couple of cities per geography where we put these hubs. We have a whole set of very seasoned expert senior people that really know their ServiceNow inside out, all CIS certified in different areas of the platform, have been practitioners in the platform for a long time, because again, our customers want to speak to those. We also have a heavy quotient of what we call early in ServiceNow career, and they could be veterans from another industry, people who've come up through our Rise Up and Next Gen programs, or college hires. And that's been one of to me, the pride and joy as well. They work obviously under the tutelage or mentorship of those senior folks, but they focus on one area of the platform. And by doing a lot of the same accelerator or the same family of accelerators, we can really enable them to be deep experts very quickly in one area. And then you see the growth in soft skills and consulting skills and platform that often know the platform or they're part of the platform way better than even very mature customers very quickly. And then there's areas where like AI, Gen AI, agentic AI, where they're already ahead. I mean, there's nobody that can keep up with them at all. So it's a healthy mix. We've got hubs in Amsterdam. We're going to be opening in Staines and Dublin. We've got in the US, Orlando. We started with Orlando, and now we've got Costa Rica, Montreal, San Diego. Finally opened up in San Diego as well, and have a great team, very centric around AI in Montreal. There's a lot of AI talent up there. Costa Rica's very talented people that serve the whole of the US, and just as if they were, I call it Orlando South because it's literally like a 2-hour hop down from Orlando. And then in Asia, we've got Sydney. We've got a big hub in Sydney now, some very, very talented folks, and we're about to open up in Bangalore as well. So yeah, and covering Japan, starting to cover Japan too. So it's been great just seeing the growth. We've been growing around 25-30% per quarter.
Wow.
which is just like mind numbing. So yeah, our demand volume went 2.5x last year. So the volume went up 2.5 times last year. So customers are loving it. There's more customers coming into Impact, and the customers that have been in Impact a while, once they start to see the jump starts and tune-ups that we have, they go, oh, this is so useful, and they start adopting more and more, consuming more and more.
What's the next one I can do, and then what's the next one I can do? And
it's literally often limited by their own internal capacity, or whether they've worked out a decent partner strategy or a decent services strategy to take what we show them and run with it again. But
that was a question I had, is around a client who wants to use the Impact service for an accelerator. What's a good client for you, or what do they need to do to prepare so that they are successful and they get the value out of the accelerator?
So there are two questions there. One is, who's a good client across the spectrum, right? From the smallest to the largest. The smallest, we typically they have access to the jump starts and tune-ups, which are, let's say, pre-canned, still very personalized, because we're taking a copy of their instance with obviously with their consent, which is done through the software, and show it to them. So it's still very personalized, but it's a fixed outcome, right? It's a fixed scope. They love it. We're seeing that the customers over 12 months start to really consume more, which is, to me, is the litmus test. We get 98% top 2 box CSAT. I'll do a little humble brag on behalf of all my teams. 98% top 2 box CSAT, and that's whether it's a small customer, customer that gets guided, all the way up to the giant, very large enterprise customers that, for example, have the total package. So great feedback from all of them. So there is no one customer. The largest ones that have access to expertise, which is also a free form, kind of a technical ask me anything. That's not available to the lower tiers, but the larger ones tend to have that, right? They have more custom, unique questions. They've already done something. They're already fairly evolved. They typically have larger teams, so they're looking for advice on something that's more advanced than our let's say our canned jump starts and tune-ups will handle. But we have that. Then in terms of preparation, I'll separate out the two answers there. For a jump start and tune-up, very little. Just get the right people into the room. Right? Work out what you are interested in, and just set up the session. There are some customers that think, oh, I need to be well down the path of implementing this before I ask. No, get it early, right?
Yeah.
There's really no overhead on them. Literally, it's click to consume. That's one of the beauties of Impact. They can literally click and request the accelerator.
And is that how it's done? Clients come to you to say, hey, I need help with this, or can I try this?
Yeah, they typically work with their customer success manager that's assigned to them, and they use the Impact digital portal, right? So it's a software front end. My accelerators, there are other accelerators as well, and there are other services. My services, because we do this instance copy stuff, for legal reasons, we ask them just to consent and pick which instance they want us to work with. So it's done through the software. But that's literally it. They wait. We prepare the goods, let's say, the bill of materials, what we want to prepare for them, to get the temporary instance spun up. We apply whatever we want to apply to that instance, so we can show them what their world will look like. Jump started with virtual agent or Gen AI or whatever it is, or tuned up to show them how they could improve what they've already deployed, but tune it up, right? And typically within between typically around 7 days or so, we'll send them a link to schedule time with the consultant. So that when it's on their clock just to get back with us. Prerequisites, I'd say, get the right people in the room, right? We're only going to spend 60, 90 minutes with you. Get the right people in your organization. If it's a variety of different people at different levels, right? Because you'll have an executive that's looking at this from a business outcome perspective. You may have the platform owner, sysadmin, or developers. If you have a preferred partner, bring the partner in. We're never trying to displace a partner. We are implementation strategy agnostic. I don't care if a customer is going to self-implement, partner implement, use our own expert services from ServiceNow. I don't care. I just want to give you the tools and the tips as if we're sitting at the bar of this is the best way to go about it, or a way to go about it, right? And cut through the clutter. Which training classes should you take? What are the prerequisites for you to go implement this? If you're going to do virtual agent, what are the things that we recommend you do first? But we'll tell you that during the session. So don't wait until you're like halfway down the implementation, then do the jump start, or try to think everything through. Our mission is to try and cut through some of the clutter and give you a clearer path forward.
And so as a client, you have the different tiers of, I did write them down so I don't remember, of guided, advanced and total. You get access to a different number of concurrent accelerators that you can choose to do, but
Correct.
there's no, like, over the lifetime of working with ServiceNow, there's no limit to how many of those accelerators you could choose to adopt.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so valuable.
Typically, I mean, the advanced customers typically have larger teams and they can consume more. So they also have allowed to have 2 at a time from each of there's 3 catalogs: a strategy, architecture, and technical catalog, and they can have 2 at a time from each one. And they can consume that, right? Because they've got larger teams, they've got people working on different stuff. Typically, a smaller commercial customer or a guided customer, they'll only have so much bandwidth and time. So 1 at a time for them is fine. But we've seen customers even in the guided end. As I said, I've seen the average move up over time. Right. I think we have 50% of the customers are using over 4 accelerators a year. I saw one customer the other day. It's like they use 16 accelerators in a year from the guided catalog. So our job is also to keep giving them things that are keeping them fully engaged, so they don't say, "Well, I've used all the accelerators." So we have a team that generates the accelerators based on the Pareto of what customers are asking for. During the CSAT survey, we asked them, which other accelerators would you like to see or consume? So we asked them there. We look also at the what customers have purchased but not adopted. So what are the ones that are the biggest drivers of success for a customer? We do talk about critical apps. Which are the apps that really would help customers get ROI out of what they're paying for?
I think customers would love it. Having worked on the partner side for so long, one of the things that I would hear often is like, "Look, I don't want you to sell me more stuff. I want to get more value out of the licensing I've already got."
Absolutely.
So I can imagine then that the what were the other ones? The tune-ups would be useful to people, where it's like, okay, I'm using HR, but am I using all of it? What could I be doing better and getting more value out of it?
Yeah, and CMDB is a great one as well, right? CMDB is so foundational to so many other things, and especially as we're going into the AI space and agentic AI. Healthy CMDB is going to be really valuable. Healthy KB as well. So those things, they matter. Having a secure platform. It's like, if you don't have a secure platform, it's a foundational platform. Health, the health assessments, those things all help customers adopt more quickly. Foundational, that'll then let them spring forward as well.
Here's a question, because this was confusing for me a while ago, but the impact service is completely separate to the support service from ServiceNow. Is that correct? Or
a nuanced answer on that. There are things that come from multiple different organizations within ServiceNow that get bundled into impact. When you're a paying customer, right, for, let's say, guided, once you get to guided, the very first one, you are then entitled to 24/7 support. Right. As you go up the tiers, or as you go, for example, to totals also have bundled in the support account managers. That's what we call the SAM role. So that's
good to understand. So impact is the brand, but what it does, it pulls together different areas, the accelerators and support. Because that's part, I think, where my confusion was, not knowing that. So that's a good thing to know. I might make a short thing on that later on, just to let people know that. Because a few people are like, what is impact? Is it support or not? So
it's a whole set of entitlements that we've managed to put together, right? So one way to think about it as well is, ServiceNow has the platform. It now has AI, which is truly part of the platform. On top of that, imagine impact is a layer on top that helps you get the most. And then you've got all the workflow BUs, the workflows built on top of it. And obviously the the hundreds of apps as well. So you take all that together, and Impact helps you basically get the most out of all
everything.
Yeah.
So Paul, then what's coming? What's the future look like in the Impact Accelerator space?
So for us, again, business as usual. There's really three things. Growth is number one. It's business as usual, but it's 25%. It's huge. So just handling that growth, which we've done well for the last 2 years, but doesn't mean it's easy. And the growth in the talent, growing the accelerator portfolio. So, again, we've gone from 6 at launch to 50 something accelerators today. We're also adding some extensions to the portfolio. We did one last year. We started doing UX accelerators, so for user experience design. So we started adding that. So we've extended the portfolio slightly different. CSDM is really an architecture topic. It's not a purely technical topic. It's an architecture topic. So we've added that for guided customers. Again, the total ones, they have some other accelerators that the platform architects deliver, but the guided customers, could really do with it as well. So we've got a guided one, an accelerator just for guided customers. That's CSDM. We have a couple of other things that we're going to expand out like that. So that's the first area, is just growth in any which way. The second one is just thinking through. The second one is really AI, right? AI, we've been dabbling in AI with my team since before Impact, right? So by going back to 2018, 19, we got involved in the very earliest AI initiatives that were really going on. And we were building a lot of capability. It was really very quiet. It was a slow burn, right? We worked on virtual agent and AI search and really built some good in-house expertise within my team. With LLMs last year, that just exploded, right? With Gen AI, that area, for example, we saw 50% quarter-on-quarter growth in demand in the US from Q2 to Q3, just to give you an idea of the growth. So that I think is going to explode even more this year with agentic AI. So really wrapping our heads around agentic AI, because I think that's going to be a dramatic next level of return on investment for our customers. A lot of it's going to be a game changer, complete
Being
game
able to build those AI agents into your workflows easily, most likely by using speech to workflow capability coming out in the platform. It's iterative.
I mean, it's a very logical extension. At first, it's like, what's this agentic AI thing, right? So I'm like every other customer. It's like, where did that come from? 6 months ago, you started hearing about it. When the first explanation was, well, duh, it's like you use Gen AI to come up with the answers, and then you're going to do something about it, right? ServiceNow is always a system of action. So you've got this automation, workflow automation that you can do. So it's really that on steroids. So it's really, ServiceNow was built for this, right? Yeah. And then you put on top, the workflow data fabric stuff that's coming as well. And it's just it's everything coming together, right? And we have a phenomenal set of intellectual property and expertise in the company around AI, but also within our team. So that's going to be a big change. I think this year AI will also really affect everybody, right? So I have my team grouped, and we have an AI group, Mo being a good example. By the way, Mo was an early in career, just 2.5 years ago or whatever, and you saw him last week. We have another guy, Garrett, who literally was less than 1 year out of college and presented at Knowledge on AI. Wow. So great skills within that AI pod. I think this year AI is going to be part of everybody's workflow, right? And I think that's going to be a pivotal moment for us as a team, as a company, as a ServiceNow ecosystem. And then the last one is ATE, this access to expertise that I mentioned for our biggest customers. That doing that really at scale. We're taking it over from a different group that was running a similar offering, but we're going to be doing it faster, bigger, and the expertise for many of these biggest companies doesn't exist within one group.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we workflow that? How do we workflow getting access to the expertise that's tucked away in distant corners of our 26,000 person enterprise, rather than just saying, okay, this got assigned to you as a consultant, work out the answer. It's like,
that's right. A client's got a specific unique problem, which is going to be requiring some expertise from the ITOM guy and from the AI guy and from the HR person, the CRM guy, whatever, to solve their needs. So how do you get access to them and pull them all together?
And a customer in Australia and New Zealand has the same rights to get to that expertise, even if the expertise may reside in Santa Clara or Amsterdam, right? How do we workflow that around the globe and get quickly, right? Because you don't want to know the answer 3 months later. You want to know it within a few days, because you're in the middle of the project, you're in the middle of deployment. You want to know how to do that. So it sounds easy, how do you get experts to answer questions? But it's in ServiceNow with the breadth and the scale, and truly doing it globally is a challenge. So those three things: just regular growth, including portfolio growth, accelerator demand growth, people growth, agentic AI and agentic AI, and then ATE. Those are probably our big three for this year.
I think ATE, if you can access those resources quickly, rapidly, will be really successful. I know that in the partner space, when I was most successful with a client, was doing exactly that thing, where I would have a little support agreement with them. So I'd be there doing the maintenance and what have you, and a bit of enhancement work. And they'd come to us with a question. So how do you do that? I go, well, my guys can't do that, but I know, because I'm working with a partner, I know that this girl and this guy, if I get them together, we could do it. And when I could manage to grab an hour each of their time and pull them in together, that's when we were really successful, and that would grow and that would turn into bigger projects, because suddenly they could see that this could happen. Yeah,
exactly. How do we do that efficiently? At scale, right? It's at scale globally, quickly. It's a good challenge. It's going to keep my team on their toes. And then also we're looking at within that. Okay, now how do we bring Gen AI into that space, right? So when we see the same, again, customers, anybody can do search, right? But when we see those, when customers ask us a question, what we've learned is don't just send them the document, right? They've paid for the service. Get on the phone with them, even if you're just going to hand them the document and walk through it. But how do we use AI to look through every previous case that we've had, to be able to spot, okay, have we solved this before? And again, they're not 80-20 cases. These are the needle in a haystack cases that customers are asking us for.
The thing I think
use AI to really be hyper efficient at that. And if you found the guy once, how does the guy in the SPP environment in Australia get access to the expert in, again, a totally different part of the world quickly, based on the fact that he solved that question or knew that answer 3 months ago with a question that came up from somebody in Europe, right? So
what I like in terms of the client interface for that, what I think you could do, Paul, is you build an avatar so that when you have your call like this, we have a third person in the call, and maybe they have a face and maybe they don't. And that is your AI agent, which is listening to this call. The client knows, hey, we're going to have our AI person with us as well. They've got vast knowledge. They're aware of everything we've done in the past, but you actually work on them being an active participant in the conversation. So they say, oh, Paul, you just mentioned that you've got HR. Let me check. I think you've got Pro. That means you could do this, and say, hey, Tim, should we do this with them? Yeah. That is bringing that information into the call at real time. Plus, it'd be fun. And if you did it first off, people will be like, have you been one of ServiceNow's AI calls? Fuck, that bot thing is insane. Like,
Yeah. So there's already we've already built AI into a lot of the software, right? So the front end software has a recommendation engine. Hey, based on where you're at, this is what we recommend you do next. the platform architect, so that people that would typically be working with those customers that can do the A to E conversation, but okay, now do it for every customer, right? So some people are getting humans, some people are getting the AI bot, some people are getting the humans assisted by the AI. It's gonna be a wild world with this agents thing. It's like somebody told me the other day, I think in SPM, strategic portfolio management, you can now add humans, but you can also add AI agents into your project plan.
I know with the data fabric stuff that's coming out, I was talking to someone from ServiceNow in Australia, and we were talking about the fact that pretty soon you're going to have AI agents within your workflow speaking to other AI agents in an external data source. It'll be AI speaking to AI, prompting one another to get what you want.
Yeah. And to set up a meeting, I'll have my AI agent talk to your agent. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty wild. I mean, we saw how quickly Gen AI unfolded.
Yeah.
Right. The whole. I mean, again, we've been working on this since there was an acquisition we did. We did an acquisition of a bunch of different companies, late teens, and then we bought Element AI in Montreal. So we had a very large AI research group. Yeah. They've been plugging away at this for years, but it just like exploded. Chat GPT, I think, forced the world to say, "Oh, this thing is real." And as somebody put it, the old adage of ServiceNow, we don't get rid of work, we get rid of good work and to make room for great work. Now that's one of the things I heard is, will AI replace you? I'm not sure about whether AI will replace you, but somebody using AI will definitely replace you, right? That's a given. So
like I use it in just different walks of life. When I'm producing thumbnails for one of my other YouTube channels, I don't have the creative skills to go and create a great scene if it's got to do with what's happening in Ukraine or something like that. But AI will just give me this great image. You can tweak it a little bit, and then I've got a great looking thumbnail to go up. Until AI text or typing text to image.
Yeah.
And I've been watching some of the text to video.
I had a weird moment the other day myself. An oh my god moment. I used Microsoft Loop. I don't know if you've ever used Microsoft Loop. It's like a collaboration tool on steroids. It was like OneNote for note taking, but really collaboration centric. And we've been talking about some people and their skills and where they're located and blah blah blah. And I needed to share it back out with this team that I've been working with. It's like I've written all these free form notes, and I'm sitting in the room with one of my leaders, and I said, okay, I need to add a table. And he says, oh, you can just hit the plus sign, because we don't know Loop that well yet. Just hit the plus sign and then you can get it to create a table. And I went, no, I'm going to use the Copilot feature. Add me a table with 6 columns. And it didn't just add the table with 6 columns. It read through the rest of my notes and took all that content, which was completely unstructured and completely like nonsensical and not in the same sequence and whatever, and put down, okay, India, US, France, Netherlands, name of person, where they're located, which city they're located in, what skills area. I've got all these little random notes. And it's like, that just saved me like 25 minutes of stupid cut and pasting to put this stuff into a table. And I could have just hit the plus sign to create the table, or I could have let Copilot and it was almost like a weird flex, and both of us this is what ServiceNow, even last year's offerings, right, can do. When we start AI agents and they start really reasoning and collaborating with each other, it's going to be next level.
The ServiceNow ability, which I think is out now or very soon, is like if I'm an end user, I go to the portal, I talk to the AI assist chatbot, and instead of me saying, hey, I'd like to make a request for leave, and it going, oh, here's a link to a catalog item, go fill it out. It's like, okay, when did you want to start your leave? Oh, this date. When are you coming back? Yeah, that date. All right, I'll send that off to your manager and should be approved for you soon. Like, wow, that completely changed my experience with requesting that.
Generating self-service for end users, for fulfillers or support agents, case summarization. Just huge, right? Or just being able to see all the previous cases, doing similarity and predictive intelligence. Then, from a creator perspective, the quality of the code creation is outstanding. And that's 2024, right? There's like old school AI already, but it's mind numbing, right? I was in Knowledge when they showed the code creation feature. And have you ever been to Knowledge, Tim?
No, I've never been to Knowledge. No.
Okay, so the keynotes, life goals. You should go, but the keynotes. Oh, I just got cramp in my leg. The keynotes are in this vast room. I mean, it's just giant, like 10 football fields at least. I don't know, 10,000, 15,000 people, huge. When they did that code creation demo, you could have heard he finished it, and you could have heard a pin drop for about 10 seconds as everybody was like
processing,
and then this huge, roar of applause. I mean, it was like huge, but that was a game-changing moment. I think we're going to see the same with agentic AI over the next couple of months.
There is. This is a couple of months ago. It's called Cloud or Claude code creation software, and so I typed in, I want you to make for me an old game which is called Pancake, where a person runs across the screen and they have multiple things flying in the air and they have to keep them going all the time. And it did it. It didn't have any graphics, so the graphics gave me like chunky blocks. But I was like, oh my god, that thing understood what I said and built a game. It's crazy.
Yeah. So and again, the quality of